You can get us introed.
All right. Hey, everybody. 6:30. We've got a great show for you tonight. We've got Pace on. We've got Bo on, myself. We're going to talk about what's going on in the market. If you don't know Pace Morby already, he's an expert with seller financing, subject to financing, creating passive cash flow, and as well as running a wholesale business. He has a contract. He was a contractor, I think, in previous life, and he'll tell us more about that. But the biggest thing I love about Pace and Jamil and what they're doing is that they're all about contribution. They have this term, a hashtag called Squad Up. And what Squad Up is where you really have your crew of people that you support, you're a contribution to, you add value to people that you support, and likewise, they support you as well. And, you know, I've been doing this business a long time, 25 years. I've been in masterminds and things. And I can tell you now more than ever, we need to squad up. We need to be connected to our circles. And the bigger thing I love about these guys is they're all in the same market. And a lot of people would look at that as like they're competitors.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I'm a competitive guy. I have that kind of mindset where I'm like, you know, somebody else. Jamil, glad you made it, brother.
How you doing?
Thank you for being here.
Wow, Jamil, you made it.
Hey, yeah, sorry. I didn't realize that StreamYard wouldn't be supported on Safari, so I had to get my Chrome updated and blah, 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 blah. Sorry about that, guys.
You're here, man. We love it. Thank you for being here. So I was just sharing, Jamil, just kind of the intro of Pace, and then with Jamil as well. These guys are about contribution. They're about squad up. So you think about in today's marketplace now more than ever, we need to be connected. And the beauty with Jamil and Pace, a lot of people, I thought when I came down to see you guys in Fresno, I thought you guys were partners. I thought you guys actually were business partners, but they're actually not business partners. They actually run completely separate businesses, and yet they collaborate all the time. Guys like Brent Daniels, Steve Trang, Jamil, Pace, the whole community there, they've got this vibe and this movement. So where you look at the other people in your market, not as competitors, but people that you can support and people you can mastermind and share ideas with. So Jamil runs Keegley. He's one of the co-founders, 60 to 80 plus wholesale transactions a month. Pace, we talked about seller financing. Bo Eckstein is a private money lender as well as does all kinds of commercial and hard money loans, residential loans. Let's get the show started, please. Jamil, why don't you start us off? Tell us about yourself and let's roll right into it.
Awesome. Guys, I'm Jamil Damji. I am as Ty mentioned, I am the president and one of the founders of Keegley. We are a wholesale operation, so we are in the business of buying and selling houses. Our goal, actually, what we are is a disposition house. So we assist other wholesalers in helping them connect with a cash buyer for their deal. I know a lot of folks say, well, who needs that? If the deal's good enough, it sells itself. I call BS on that. It's not true. Deals need to be sold. If you want to get top dollar for your property, if you don't want to leave money on the table, you absolutely need to work with somebody whose main focus is on finding those buyers that'll pay a little bit more money for a deal. I have the pleasure of being, best friends with Pace, Brent, Steve. These guys have helped me so much in not only my business, but just being able to connect and work with a broader group across the United States. I'm happy I'm here. Thank you so much, Ty, for the invitation. I'm happy to connect with your guests, and any value that I can bring today is my pleasure.
Love it. Thank you for being here. Pace, please take it away. Tell us about yourself.
You know what's interesting about Jamil is it's not just about his ability to sell a deal that other people are having a hard time to sell, but he also helps us stay away from committing to bad deals that we otherwise sometimes might commit to. Okay, so even me and my experience level, which I'm at the level I'm at, and there's people that I'm trying to get up to their level, et cetera. But people look at me and my level, and they assume that I know everything about all the properties I'm acquiring. I texted Jamil on 2 deals that I've been working on this morning just to confirm, and I was off on one of my numbers like $30,000. And so Jamil's a really great person to go to and say, hey, I need a gut check on this property. I'm about to get the seller under contract. I want to make sure I negotiated low enough, because I absolutely, as a wholesaler, we'll get into subject to and creative financing as well. But as a wholesaler, there's nothing worse than working your guts out to get a contract just to work your guts out to get yourself out of that contract, right? And also just the fact that we want to sleep at night. So it's really nice to have somebody that sells 80 to 90 properties every single month. They know what buyers are paying. They know the climate and the personalities and all the stuff behind the scenes at a much higher level than I ever will. So it is so nice to be able to leverage Jamil in not just Phoenix, but also in 12 other markets that they're currently in. And in fact, Jamil, again, he's my competitor. So I'm like actually pumping him up, talk about squad up. Jamil and their company is going nationwide. They are franchising. They just got approval, which takes a freaking long time and all sorts of lawyers and all that kind of stuff. They're going nationwide on a Keegley model, like really, really soon, probably next couple of months, right, Jamil?
Yeah, within the next 30 days. Thank you, Pace. Within the next 30 days, we'll be rolling nationwide. Yeah,
it takes forever to get approval for franchising. Anyway, so
it's the worst.
Like, not just selling my deals, but protecting me when I'm going to enter into a deal. I've got a deal that I've been working on. It's a probate deal. My probate attorney refers me the client 6 months ago. I've been working the deal, and my feeling is that I was going to make $40,000, $50,000 on the deal. And after talking to Jamil, at the price I had it at, it's a much smaller spread than I originally anticipated. So before I go forward and really commit, during my inspection period, I can have Jamil double check and say, hey man, I can sell it here. So I'm going back and renegotiating $20,000 off the price, which I actually did today. So it's nice to be able to have somebody that's a professional on the disposition side to really, really help you out.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
love it. Sure. Love it. So just with regard to, guys, the State of the Union, right? I know that, obviously it's been an interesting week, right? A lot of changes. I think we're all experiencing, small shifts, big shifts, things like that. What are you seeing as what's real too? A lot of guys get on calls and get on these things and pie in the sky. Hey, don't worry. Everything's going to be fine, which I do believe everything will be fine. Everything always works out. At the same time, what's really going on? What do you guys see when you're talking to investors, talking to your circle, your squad? What are you seeing? What's the reality of what's going on? And then even more importantly, what are you doing to, not only just survive, but thrive in this marketplace as it's changing daily?
Jamil, you want to start us off on that?
Sure. So, we at Keegley have the benefit of really getting the temperature of the wholesale market because we sell so much volume, right? So when you have a sample that size, it gives you data. And so let me take you back last week. So I coined the term flunami because it's kind of like we got hit with a big tsunami of flu, right? And we got a flunami in across the globe, which my business partner and I were discussing is an event-driven recession, right? This is an event versus an economic-driven recession. And
Correct.
in my head, I hadn't really made a difference between the two. An economic recession happens because of economic indicators, problems, just an underlying issue within the economy as a whole. Like in 2008, we had a big problem with mortgage-backed securities, and hence we had the event that we had the recession that took place after that. This is an event-driven recession like 9/11 would be, or like a natural disaster, like an earthquake. And so the benefits to that, even though it's going to hurt, the benefits to that is that the recovery of event-driven recessions is much faster, and the spike back to normalcy happens at a much more rapid pace. Now, looking in terms of data and numbers, so we get hit with the flunami about 2 weeks ago. I'd say it became real for all of us. Right after we got back spring break with our kids. Would the three on this panel right now agree to that?
Yeah.
Right.
100.
So we come back from spring break with our kids, and now we are in the flunami, right? And all of a sudden we're like, okay, what's happening? That week we sold 24 houses. So we were crushing volume. The investors were still going. They were buying, committing to deals, closing deals. All of this was amazing. Then just this week, Monday and Tuesday, it was crickets. I mean, we had sent out amazing deals. There was no phone calls. The phone did not ring. And then yesterday, we had the events in the stock market the stimulus package, close to being approved. We had the Dow spiking 1,500 points, all of that positive movement. And today we sold 6 houses yesterday. 2 of them fell out, and today we've sold 3. So activity is back. It's not what we're used to, and I don't think we're going to be what we're used to. I don't think we're going to be in a situation where we're like, hey, this is exactly like it was before. We're going to feel this for a little. We have the flu, right? We have the flu, which means we have aches and pains. We're slower. We need to take some rest. We need to drink fluids and make sure we're checking in with ourselves. This is what we're doing as a society. This is what we're doing as an industry. And I think that it's going to take some time, but there's still activity. It's not doom and gloom. It's really just battening down the hatches and seeing how long this event lasts.
Love it. Okay. Thank you for that. How about for you, Pace? What do you see today? And then even, what are some of the adjustments you're making and how are you navigating?
So I've got 2 businesses that we can chat about. Wholesale is primarily what Jamil's talking about. In my wholesale business, we've changed 2 things. We've changed our entrance price and our exit price, right? So I'm going to enter a deal much lower, and I'm going to plan on exiting that deal much lower as well on a wholesale assignment. I keep my spread relatively the same, but we went back through and we changed our advertising. Now, the median price in Arizona is like $285 in Maricopa County. We now are keeping our ARV on the back end of the list that we're pulling. We're keeping it under 225 just to add an extra layer. We actually doubled down our lead flow. Helps us stay away from committing to bad deals that we otherwise sometimes might commit to in Maricopa County. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of feedback, Bo.
On the back end of the list that we're pulling, we're keeping it under 225. Just what that is, usually somebody who's not there. We actually doubled down our lead flow to help us stay away from committing to bad deals that we otherwise sometimes might commit to.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of feedback, Bo.
On the back end of the list that we're keeping it.
You have the Facebook open by chance, or
I don't.
Maybe. I don't either. That's odd. Okay. All right. Well, there we go. We're back to normal.
Okay, cool. So that's my wholesale business. On my subject to business, my creative financing business, I tell people all the time, you have 2 choices in your real estate business. You either have to get better or you have to get creative. Those are your only 2 choices, right? So when competition gets crazy, when the market changes, I don't think that this is an absolute crash. I wouldn't go as far as to saying it's a recession just yet. I would just say things are changing, right? Maybe it's a pause. I don't know, because I don't want to be somebody in a week where people look back and go, you were so wrong. You said it was X, Y, and Z. So I'm playing it by ear every single day. I can tell you that there's some major changes coming up down the road. And so I'm very grateful that I've learned the skill set of buying houses with no money out of my pocket. I'm grateful for the fact that I've got a little over 50 doors that are cash flowing. I do have fear. This is something that a lot of my colleagues in my masterminds, all my creative finance masterminds around the nation are like, Pace, you've been buying houses like crazy the last year or year and a half. How is it going with your rentals? So far, I've had one. So Jamil and I had a conversation 2 days ago where they said, hey, how are your rentals? Because although we're competitors, we're best friends and we talk. I think Jamil and I talk almost every single day.
Yep.
He asked me, how are your rentals going? And I said, dude, I surprisingly have no issues right now with my rentals. Then yesterday I had a company named, I can't remember the name of the company, but they're a big Airbnb company. They came and signed a 3-year lease on one of my properties so they could turn around and sublease it out on Airbnb. And I don't care. I don't want to run Airbnbs. It's not my model. So somebody came and paid us over market rent for a 3-year lease. And I was like, take it by all means. So that's about 6 months ago. They lost their ass. They had over 500 properties between 6 different states. They had over $10 million in private capital and they lost it all. Why? Because they lost all their bookings for March, April, May, and June. Everything's gone. Everything on the books is completely gone. So their private capital, everything is done. And they tore up our lease basically, and the owner of the company himself is like, I'm the last man standing. I let 150 people go. and I'm the last man standing. I'm calling you guys, letting you know I'm calling all 500 of our rental agreements and letting you know our company fell apart. And I have no more Airbnb. So this is just me being honest, and I don't want to be doomsday guy. So we immediately put it back on the market. We went over to the property. We just cleaned it out. It was like $200 in cleaning. We did all that this morning, put it back up on the market for rent. And we already have a rental agreement already before the end of the day. So I'm just saying the Airbnbs are probably going to be the most impacted for at least the short term, but I don't do any Airbnbs, so I feel like I'm insulated from that. Rentals, when you're looking at a market, look at 2008, when the market fell apart, what happened to rental rates? They actually went up, right? So
more tenants.
Right, so we have more tenants, less people are able to buy. Now, here's what's really cool about less people being able to buy in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13. Less lending was given out with conventional financing, but a lot of people were working back then, right? 11, 12, 13, 14. I didn't know what I know now. I would have absolutely destroyed. I would have never had to work again if I knew what I know now back in 10, 11, 12, and 13. I would have been able to acquire so many people's houses on subject to and seller financing at such low amounts that over the last 7 or 8 years, those would have appreciated and cash flow to a point where a year ago I could have cashed out and had $15 million. It is absolutely bonkers what you can do in any upside or downside in this market, depending on the tools in your tool belt. So I feel like wholesalers, anybody that's in your guys' audience, if you're a wholesaler and all you're doing is wholesaling, I feel like you're a contractor that walks on a job site to build a house and all you have is a hammer.
Yep.
Dude, you got to have a saw, you got to have a truck, you got to have wheelbarrows, you got to have a shovel, and all you guys are standing there is with a shovel. You guys need to get creative. You need to understand what is available for you, not only to double your lead, not only to double your conversion, but to double your profitability with no extra ad spend. So for us, we have a very small team. We have under 12 people, and we do close to 30 transactions a month. The way we do that is because most wholesalers, let's say that they're converting at 10 contracts a month, I'm spending the same amount of money as they are, but I'm converting another 10 on top of that because my lead flows that don't work for wholesale, I just convert them over to a creative financing structure, right? Then the other 10 that I do typically are people sending me deals that I didn't have to pay for just because people know we're the people that, you send your subject to deals to, sometimes wholesale, whatever. So I'm telling you right now for wholesalers that have a little bit of fear, guys, all you have to do is get creative, get better and get creative. That's all you have to do is get creative. It literally, if you understand, jump into my Facebook group. If you jump into the Facebook group, Jamil's in there all the time helping answer questions as well. If you jump in my Facebook group, within 3 days, you can understand enough about subject to and creative financing that in 3 days, you can understand as much as I did, but it took me $50,000 and 2 years of my life to understand it. The value and the information we give on that Facebook group is crazy. So I would say right now, so like, for example, let's say that the market, buyers in a year or 2 years or whatever are impacted from the bankruptcies and other things in 2 years. Traditional real estate, like families, are not able to get traditional funding. The amazing thing is I can go sell them a house on a wrap, and I can make just as much money on a wholesale fee on a wrap as I could have if there was a ton of equity, and I can sell it to people just have a little bit of cash. So I can break all that kind of stuff down. You guys are probably going to have some people that have some questions. What's cool about StreamYard, have you guys used StreamYard before, Ty and Bo?
No, Ty told me to get it. So I was using my Be Live, and this is like, whoever recommended it, I love you because
Pace.
Pace, this thing is just amazing.
Dude. Like you can get some of the people that might have questions, you could even tie them into the live if you chose to do so. You might want to get a little bit better at mechanics before doing that today. We don't want to do that, but I feel like, just to sum that up, I feel like some major changes are coming down the pipe. And I feel like companies that are adapting and thinking about those changes are not only going to survive, they are absolutely going to thrive. So companies like Jamil, I've been lucky enough to drive around with him for the last couple of weeks and hear what they're talking about and the ways that they're changing and adapting. They kept everybody They kept everybody on staff, whereas other companies like orthodontists and other people, completely different business, obviously, but they're looking at letting people go. Jamil is fortifying and educating his people on how do we take advantage of this change in the market. Same thing with us. I've never spent more time on my sales floor as I have the last 10 days. What I've been doing is I've been going in 3 hours every morning. I've been going live, by the way, and just doing cold calls on Facebook Live and Jamils Group, Wholesale Hotline Facebook group. And I'm just calling sellers live, and I'm doing it in front of my sales team because I didn't get lazy over the last couple of years, but I definitely disconnected as I scaled in my business. You go and work on other things, right? Sure. So the last 10 days, I've had to go back and focus on making sure that my team is not letting opportunities slip by, and also making sure that if somebody says, no, I want retail, we are converting those over to subject to and creative financing, because that business is going to absolutely accelerate over the next couple of years.
I love it. I love it. And so just so everybody knows too, and we're going to repost the link, but tell them the name of your group. What is the group name in Facebook? It's an awesome group. Great content.
It's Creative Finance with Pace Morby is my Facebook group. I spend, no joke, no less than 2 hours a day in that group. And what I do is I have a hard time typing things out. So what I do is I give people a 3, 4, 5, 6 minute video to every one of their questions. So somebody might think it's a very rudimentary question. They say, hey, how do I skip trace this? Or how do I do this? And I or somebody from my team will actually answer them in a long video format that is tailored to them. We will say their name and I'll read their question and then I'll answer it and I'll post it in their question. So that's my Facebook group, highly active, all about creative financing, little bit of wholesale, but typically if somebody asks me a wholesale question, although I am a wholesaler, I tell them to go over to Jamil's Facebook group, which is Wholesale Hotline, which is, I personally am so like, I feel like I won the lottery that I'm on Jamil's show, the Wholesale Hotline show. It is the freaking dopest show of all time, where we take live calls from wholesalers or people trying to get into the business on Monday at 5 p.m. Arizona time and just answer their questions live and let everybody else hear their questions. It's a blast.
I love the show, the Wholesale Hotline. I love your Facebook group is awesome with all the subject to information, and the Wholesale Hotline. You guys, it's been about what, 6 weeks?
Yeah, something we've had about 6 weeks. And the challenge I'd say the biggest challenge with Wholesale Hotline, Jamil will confer with me, is that we've been traveling the whole time and we've been trying to figure out what day and what time. So now that we have solid date at 5 p.m., we now have some pretty amazing guests stacked up. So we've got Sean Terry. Jamil secured Sean Terry. He's a friend of the show. We've got Max Maxwell coming on in the next couple of weeks. And now we've got Jerry Norton. Anybody that follows Jerry Norton. Yep. We've got, in my opinion, the 3 biggest influencers that I still to this day watch and learn from. Big
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Let me go to this question here. Somebody asked, Aisha asks, how can we virtually find and close deals? What's your approach to go into a different market? If maybe they're in California and they want to find a lower price point area, they feel more comfortable.
Jamil, you want to jump on that?
Sure. So Keegley, we're in many virtual markets. We run all of our operations from Phoenix, Arizona. So all of my act guys, everybody's in Phoenix, but we're in 11 different markets. So 10 of our markets are virtual. So we figured out how to do that. Ultimately, it's very similar to working in your own market. What you have to become good at is getting sellers to actually contract over the phone. So that's the hardest part. The hardest part is being able to build rapport, have those conversations with sellers. It's the exact same process that you're going through if you were live, right? If it was a local market, there's nothing different about it. You're getting a list, you're skip tracing that list, you are communicating, doing outreach to those sellers. What's changed is that a lot of times what we like to do as wholesalers is we get uncomfortable on the phone and we say, I'm gonna come to the house. I'm gonna come to the house, right?
Yep.
Now, I have nothing against that. I see Pace go to a seller appointment and he crushes them. Pace is like a belly to belly superstar. He's a ninja. But he's also a ninja on the phone too. And if you make Pace convert from being face-to-face to on the phone, he's going to be just as good. He just has to turn on that in his mind that I'm not going to be able to come and see you, right? As soon as you come to terms with, I'm not going to see you, I'm going to have to get this done over the phone, you can easily get it done over the phone. So obviously, guys, the keys to think about here are make sure that you're having the seller be proactive with you, right? Get them involved in the conversation. Have them FaceTime you if they have iPhones. Like when you're on a call, be like, would you mind FaceTiming me right now so you can show me around the house? Get them involved with you. Get them to really engage with you. That engagement goes a long way. Pace said this the other day. When he can FaceTime with a seller, he will jump to that before anything else, because then they get to see, oh, that's a real guy. That's a real guy. Oh, and look, there's a baby with him. Like when people can come in and see your life, when they can get a visual on what's in your surroundings and what's going on, you become more than the words on a screen. You become more than the words on the receiver. You become a human being, right? And so I would say start harnessing technology more. If you don't have an iPhone, shame on you. Get one. You know, Androids don't have the capacity that iPhones do. Pace is the champion of Android hitting.
I will grill you if you have an Android. One thing that I can add on top of what Jamil's saying is this. People, like, I think all four of us are in that age group that we would prefer to go down to the grocery store and buy our groceries, right? We probably prefer it. Now, once you get a taste of actually what Amazon can do and what Walmart delivery or other people can do, you start realizing, oh my gosh, like I've been spending a lot of time driving to and from and doing all that stuff. Virtual wholesaling is the same. Once you get a taste for virtual wholesaling, you start realizing how much more time and energy you can spend on other money-making activities. Now, why do I still go on appointments? A lot of people don't see this from the outside looking in, is that my team typically sends me on appointments that have been impossible to close over the phone. Okay, so I'm only going to stuff where people are like, no, I want to see you, or, you know, maybe it's an older person that has still a dial-up, you know, phone or whatever else. But in another market, now we do some virtual wholesaling in other markets, all you do is squat up with somebody else and have them go on the appointment, or have them stop by and get photos of somebody, the seller. A lot of times, I'm no joke, there's a lot of times where when we're door knocking, right, we'll door knock pre-foreclosures here in Phoenix, that we knock the door, and the reason we get the deal is because that seller had to turn their cell phone off because they're so out of money. So it is nice to have some boots on the ground in special situations, but 95% of the time, once you get a taste for virtual wholesaling, you'll realize that even in our own local market in Phoenix, we virtually wholesale. I'd say 60, 70% of our contracts here locally. But from looking at my Instagram, you would guess like, oh, Pace and his team go on every appointment. No, I go on every appointment. Number one, I go on the appointments that are really tough. Number one, I love to go on them. Number two, when I go on them, I record every phone call. I record every face-to-face, and then I drop that for other people. Because a script, I'm a guy that I have a hard time reading things. It makes me fall asleep. My brain's too active. I imagine most A personalities are like that. Most entrepreneurs are like that, which is why they created Audible. And so I like to record those face-to-faces I started out originally to help myself, coach myself. And then number two, when I started hiring people, then my team could hear what I said to sellers, and then the sellers, issues live and in person, my team would learn that. And then when I created a Facebook group, I realized that was the biggest value for people, is it completely took this weird paradigm away from them, or it changed their paradigm where they felt like sellers were this big, bad, scary monster that I'm afraid to call and I'm afraid to talk to. So I like doing it because it's fun when you really can solve somebody's problems that nobody else can solve. But again, the virtual wholesaling question, 60, 70% of our contracts here locally in Phoenix, we don't go to the house. So in other markets, it's like 95, it's only that 5%. And then when you finally realize how much easier it is actually than doing belly to belly can sometimes be a crutch. It really, really can be. And it can slow down your process, where now you're driving 45 minutes, you're waiting, Sometimes a seller will cancel like 5 minutes before you get to the house after a 40-minute drive, and you're just like, what the hell? I just wasted 3 hours of my freaking day, right? That doesn't happen with virtual wholesaling. So when time is money, it's critical. But that's a great question. I love that question.
Love it.
What about now, Keegley, your platform? I've heard on other podcasts when I was listening to you. Like for me, for example, I'm buying properties. I flip in California. I live in Henderson, Nevada, but I buy and hold in the Midwest. And so whenever I do a marketing campaign to buy for myself, I was getting a ton of deals, and I wasn't wholesaling. Do you guys have a dispo position for a guy like me that can say, hey, listen, I'm getting these leads. It's a great wholesale deal that you've already built a buyer's platform. I necessarily don't want to do it. Like, for example, I'm buying in South Bend, Indiana. And I can, I have a website that's ranked first on Google, in Google. I'm getting leads, and I was just letting them go to the wayside. And instead of me doing that, I mean, I could, build this thing out for myself. But it seems like that you would work with a guy like me on dispos. Is that true? Or
absolutely. So that's why we're here. The Keegley was formed because we were seeing so many wholesalers learn acquisitions and doing a great job. And a lot of guys were, what ended up happening is I'd show up to a buy appointment, Pace would be there, Carlos Reyes would be there, Sal would be there, this guy, and we'd all be showing up to this big pizza party at a seller's house. And what would end up happening is one guy would end up contracting it and wouldn't be able to sell it, right? He'd contract too high because we're all bidding each other up. And then he'd contract it too high and the deal would fall apart, and we'd have a seller angry. We'd have, wholesalers that couldn't get a deal. No money was made anywhere. Everyone wasted their time, and it was a big cluster. So to answer your question, Bo, absolutely. We our whole business model is dispositioning houses for other wholesalers. So if you've got a deal in a market that we're in 11 right now, but we'll be franchising. So within a few months, we'll be nationwide. We will absolutely work with you, where if you're to say, I'm going to bring the deal to the table, can you guys bring a buyer, and we'll work out some kind of a equitable split that makes sense for both of us. That's how we roll.
That's awesome. Cause like for example, in South Bend, I don't have the same boots on the ground. I was buying, fixing, and holding properties, but I was getting all these leads, and I didn't have any way to dispo them. And it's like, then I listened to your podcast. I'm like, that just like, I'm throwing away money essentially.
100%.
And 100%. I also want to thank you guys too, because I'm a hard money lender. So I come from, buy with hard money, fix, burn, keep it. And in the current state, I can tell you that there's a ton of hard money lenders out of business right now. So that game has totally changed. I can't tell you how many Facebook messages I've seen, like, I can't get funding. So to learn from Pace on the creative deal structuring side is so critical. Like I've known a lot about it. I've studied it, but it's like to watch him do it, and it's incredible, which leads me into the next. One of the viewers asked, can you show a high level example of how, this is for you, Pace, how you would structure a deal when somebody walked away from when a wholesaler walked away from a deal, how you structured it and you made it into a lucrative deal?
Can I jump? I will absolutely answer that question. I want to answer two other things real quick. So somebody asked a question in here, and they said, what tools do you use for virtual wholesaling? What I would suggest is go into Jamil's wholesaling hotline group. I can tell you he uses PropStream, he uses batch leads, which are like all these systems. Let Jamil answer that question for you. That is a great, great question. Another question that somebody asked, I'm going to answer this one really quick, is do you need to be comfortable on the phone in order to progress? The answer is no, but I think you should definitely listen to other people on the phone live. So that's one of the things we can offer you in terms of value is go to Wholesale Hotline tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Arizona time. Me and my team will be calling our wholesale leads, and we will be doing it live. You will hear me personally on the phone. And I'm sure there's somebody out there better, but I would say that me personally, I feel like I'm the best at what I do in terms of conversion on wholesale and on subject to. So that'll help you like break through that fear. So one other thing, you bring up the word BRRRR, okay? So a lot of people don't necessarily know what BRRRR is, right? So that's buy. Where do we usually use our money for, Bo? Where do we get our money? Is that hard money?
Yeah, me.
So what happens when hard money lenders aren't lending anymore?
It's a good question.
You can't BRRRR strategy anymore, right? That's why I say BRRRR is trash. No offense, it's old school. I feel like personally, I have 2 BRRRR methods going on. The only reason I would ever do BRRRR because you understand this method, and this method is SIR. What does that S stand for?
Subject to.
Why would I buy a house with hard money when I could just take over a 3% loan from somebody and not have to put any money down? So when I do a BRRRR method, right? Seriously.
Yeah.
When I do a BRRRR method, this is what sucks about BRRRR method, okay? I've got to get a hard money loan. Typically, that hard money loan is what? Anywhere between 10 to 14% interest. How much money are you guys asking down? 10, 20% on a BRRRR model deal?
Well, now it's changed. It used to be 10 to 15% down. Now it's probably 25% down.
Okay, so now I got to put 25% down, right? So let's look at a $100,000 acquisition. I've got to come up with $25,000 in cash on that deal, right? So I've got to come up with 25K on this deal. Then what's the other R stand for? It's
renovate,
right? So now I got to renovate that more with cash, especially when there's no lenders out there. Lenders are tightening up, especially bridge lenders or gap lenders. Gap lenders are typically the ones that are giving you the money for that renovation. So I've got to come up with, let's say, another 25K in renovation. Oh my gosh, I got $25,000 to my hard money lender down payment. I got my closing costs, and now I got $25,000 in renovation. And then on top of it, what's this stand for?
Refinance.
Right. So I got
right.
And then this one is for refi. So the word refi, when I have to go get an investment loan. Okay, I can't go get a primary resident loan. I've got to get an investor, get a bank that will give me an investment loan. It takes 6 months to stabilize the rents on that property before I can go out and refinance it. And they don't give me all my money, right? So I have to keep a chunk of that money in that BRRRR model, right? And then I go repeat. So that deal probably with hard money and all this stuff out of the pocket probably cost me $60,000 to do that deal, right? On a subject to, like for example, I've got a subject to that I bought on Sunday that a wholesaler referred to me, and not just any wholesaler, a guy that's like top of his game. Jamil knows him really well, J.R. Piper. Yep. He's an amazing wholesaler, does a ton of business, very, very well-educated guy. He says to me, he goes, I've got a deal I don't know what to do with, has no equity. So I'm buying that house subject to, I'm not going to renovate it because it was renovated a year ago. I'm just going to clean it up. Then I'm going to rent it out, and then I'm going to repeat. My total out-of-pocket expense on the same type of model but different is that my total out-of-pocket expense is $7,000. Okay, $2,000 to the seller, $2,000 to the closing costs, $1,000 to my first month's mortgage and some little minor cleanup, and then I get a renter in there. But I'm not going to do a rent. I'm going to do a wrap. And why am I going to do a wrap on this? Is because a wrap, and we can get into that if anybody cares, but I can go get a wrap buyer that has 20K down. They cover my $7,000 to get into the deal, and I take a $13,000 fee plus cash flow. That was a deal that a wholesaler threw away. That's a deal that has no equity in that deal, but it has a 3% VA loan that I took over, and it has a $600 monthly spread. So that is where you make your money. In wholesale, you make your money in the spread of equity. In subject to and creative financing, you make your money in the spread between the debt and what you can rent it out for. So BRRRR method is awesome if like you need a house. The BRRRR model houses I have going on are right next to ASU. I specifically wanted those houses right on that block because of proximity. But utilizing this method, I've got one house that has $67,000 in cash wrapped up, and then it's going to end up cash flowing about $700 a month after I, go through this whole rigmarole. Meanwhile, I could use the SIR method that costs me no money, and I actually get $13,000 into my pocket, and then I cash flow $600 a month on top of that.
Strong.
So Guys, that was this week, right? That's J.R. Piper, a very high level wholesaler, sends me a lead and goes, I don't know what to do with this. You seem to know what you're doing. So here's a lead. Pay me a little bit of money if you figure it out. And I'm like, dude, this is a deal that has zero equity, and I'll probably, over the term of this deal, I'll probably make close to $100,000.
Strong.
So no hard money lenders, I don't need you. I love hard money lenders, but when I use this method, I don't need a hard money lender, and I don't need a conventional lender either. I don't need to use I don't need to show my taxes. I don't need to show my credit. I don't need to show my bank account or even a pay stub in order for me to go out and buy houses. The house I'm in right now, this is my home office. Guys, I bought this house subject to, and we were originally going to rent this thing out and make $1,000 in cash flow a month. I gave $0 to the seller. I paid for closing costs and moved right in. 3.25% interest rate, I didn't have to qualify for. That's why we do it, right? Anyway, so I'm going to shut the hell up if you guys have.
No, that was great, dude. That was awesome. I love it. Very good. Very, very good.
But like, here's the thing is I do use hard money lenders on my flips, but then here's another thing too. I can do flips with subject to, and we call that model a subtail. So instead of a whole tail, we do a subtail, right? So I have 4 houses right now. We took over subject to, and then we're taking those to the retail market. So I didn't have to go to a hard money lender. I just simply renovate the property, throw it on the retail market, and that subject to, or that mortgage that I took over gets wiped out when my new retail buyer comes and buys that house off the MLS. We've got one subtail that's going on right now. Hey, Jordan Size Love, let me do you a favor, bro. You wrote a comment in here, so let me do more reading up on sub 2. Don't go to my Facebook group. Okay, because you're never going to get as much value out of a book. I can tell you, I read every book. You go on Amazon, you go on Audible, you try and figure out all these subject to books. They're going to lead you astray. It cost me years and thousands of dollars. Listen to my audio recordings. Look at my Facebook group. We give you live examples. Go to my YouTube. I have a series called The Real Deal, where I physically walk the properties that I have in escrow. I tell you where the lead came from, what tools we used, how we negotiated with the seller. Then I take that recording and I put it in either Wholesale Hotline or my Facebook group. So you hear the conversation with the seller. Then I break it down on a whiteboard exactly how I structured it, and then how I'm exiting it and where the money comes and where the money goes and what contracts are used. Bro, no reading. Do not do any reading. Do yourself a favor. Just go to the Facebook group. And anybody in here that's asking questions about wholesale, guys, go on Wholesale Hotline Facebook group. It is freaking amazing. Like, it's growing 100 people a day. That's how amazing that Facebook group is. It's 6 weeks old. It's unbelievable.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I look forward to watching those videos, watching the replays, even, watch them 2 or 3 times during the week, just the replays on them. So absolutely strong. But one question.
I'm so sorry, I'm a talker. I apologize. I have to warn people all the time. Jamil did this live yesterday. I just watched it this morning, like at 3 a.m. I woke up and I saw Jamil did a live yesterday. So you guys are asking questions about how do I virtually wholesale? What tools do I use? Jamil yesterday set up a brand new text campaign and then started texting people live on this big screen, and they're recording the screen, and you could see the responses going back and forth with the sellers. You guys got like 5 or 6 hot sellers within like 2 minutes of setting this campaign up, right?
Not only that, they contracted one of those deals this morning, and we sold it this afternoon. So
nice.
We set up a free account. They gave us 500 free text messages. We used 194 of the free ones. Then we left the studio. Annie was continuing to message back. They contracted today, send it to us. We sold it, and it was great. Like, that's the part that always makes me super excited, because I can see when people are struggling to get their first deal under contract, and we can do it literally starting from scratch. None of those sellers knew that I was a seasoned wholesaler. They had no idea.
Right.
If you were to watch me in the live that I did yesterday, you'd be like, wow, that's probably one of the dumbest people I've ever seen. He's right? Because at Pace, I was being extra stupid yesterday on purpose, because I wanted people to be like, oh, okay, that's what I do. It's like,
right.
That's all.
I love it.
I mean, that's why people are tuning in. People are tuning in to say, how do I do this step by step? And how do I know what my where to go, right? So that's why guys like Ty and guys like Bo exist, is like you guys are creating content for people that say, go here, do this, go here, do this. Don't go and try and do it on your own. There's so many freaking people that I ask questions to, especially on Wholesale Hotline, like live. We'll take a question live and somebody will go, oh, I have this problem and that problem and that problem. And my first question back is I say, perfect. What does your squad think about the problem that you're currently faced with? And they go, what do you mean squad? I go, well, don't you have any local homies that you rely on and get advice from and go socialize with and share ideas back and forth with? And they make sure that, you know, Ty, like if you and I were in the same city, bro, we'd be hanging out every day.
For sure.
Right? We would be solid squad. So like anybody in your area, if people aren't texting you guys right now and like reaching out to you to squad up with you and utilize whatever resources you guys currently have, they're mindless. It's crazy. So the guys on the phone will be like, oh no, I haven't squatted up yet. I'm like, you're on YouTube, you're on all these Facebooks and Instagrams and trying to find people that don't even live in your state to help you out. A lot of them are just charging you, which is fine. Like they deserve
like
to.
They're spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to people.
Dude, I had a guy come into my office about 3 months ago, and his name is Jason. But for about a month, I called him 22K. That was his name. So he came into the office. I just said, yo, what up, 22K? And the reason I called him that is because he went out to a guru here locally in Phoenix that had not done a deal in 5 years and paid that guy $22,000 for a week-long mentorship. But the guy hadn't done a deal in 5 years. And I'm sitting there thinking, the best thing you could do, I'm not opposed to mentorship. I've paid crazy good money to amazing good people. But I'm saying is vet the people you're paying your money to. And then on top of it, where you'll get your best advice are people that are not overcharging you. They're just there, you know, vibing with you. And those people are going to be your local squad. So you've got to find your local squad. And if you don't have a local squad, be the leader and start a local squad and invite 4 or 5 people in it. Right?
Exactly. Absolutely love it. Absolutely. That's so strong. So Jamil, tell them again, that video you did the live text messaging and that is in the Wholesale Hotline Facebook group, correct?
It is. Well, yeah, it's there. But if you want it, I don't know how long it'll sit up on my Facebook. I was on my Instagram today and I told people on a video that I posted today, if you want me to email, I've got it downloaded. I got that video downloaded and it's in a Dropbox now. It's in a link. If you want that video, go to my Instagram. My Instagram is JDamji, JDAMJI. Okay, if you want, somebody can type that in. I can't share it, but Pace, put yours and put yours up there, please. JDAMJI. Go to my Instagram. There's no fee for that video, but I want you to do 2 things. You got to go to the last video that I posted, and I want you to tag somebody that you want in your squad. Tag somebody that you want in your squad on my page, okay, so that they start following and start understanding what they need to do. And then DM me your email address, and I'm emailing. I have about 80 emails to send today for people who are requesting that video. I'm happy to share that with all of your viewers as well.
Absolutely. And also too, Jamil, if you can share the SMS tool, because that's a cool thing where I see that you've been promoting that, where the free 500, basically like the trial version, I believe it's batch. Is it? Batch?
Yeah, it's in the video. I take them through the whole thing from turning on your computer, starting at Google. I mean, that's how much I want instruction. For me, if I'm going to do something on the computer, I want someone to start at Google.
Yeah.
Start there, because that's where I am. When I turn on when I open my browser, that's where I am. I need instructions from there. And so that's how we've done it. We started at Google, and I take you all the way through.
I love it. I love it. So, Bo, more questions, Bo. How are we doing on questions on the?
There's too many. I can't even.
Can I hammer through a couple of them real quick?
Yeah. Can you see them?
Yeah, I can see them.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, Pace, where can I find all your seller conversations? Guys, go to my Creative Finance Facebook group. It's called Creative Finance with Pace Morby, and just type in Dropbox, and you'll see all the posts that I've done. Usually, what I do is I welcome new members to the Facebook group, and my welcome gift to them is my newest seller recording. So I usually do it 2 or 3 times a week, and it's usually an hour. It's unedited. It's literally like you hear me putting the phone in my pocket all the way to the point where I give the seller a hug, and you can hear me rustling the contract that I just got. Literally, they're unedited, and there's nothing better than listening to somebody else close a seller. There's no script in the world that will give you that education. So Creative Finance with Pace Morby. And then for Jamil, you guys want to know like his batch code, he has a discount code because he's friends with the guys at Batch. Go to Wholesale Hotline and look at his videos. Unbelievable value there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. I love it. I love it.
I was telling, I messaged Ty because he kept on breathing in the mic. And I said, pull the mic away. I can hear you breathing. He's so exciting. He's breathing hard, and it's like creating a.
I'm so excited. I'm so jacked up. I love it.
We did, just so you guys know, in the Creative Finance group last week, what I did is I did a live. It was 2 hours. It's still obviously still in the Facebook group. And that live was start to finish how to underwrite a subject to and a seller finance deal. And not only how to underwrite them, but what are the exit strategies and how you should go into every single deal thinking about, okay, well, it's not a this, it's a that. If it's not a this, it's a that. And I had probably over 350 comments in a 2-hour period. And the majority of the people making those comments were saying, I've tried to read books about this. I've tried to watch videos about it. You just absolutely taught me at like a kindergarten level. And now I feel like I'm a master. So you guys will see me post a lot of those comments because that's why I do it. The emotional income of feeling like, holy crap, I took 5 years of me trying to do this and I condense it down to a 2-hour conversation with you. And you go, oh my gosh, I freaking get this. Why do I ever, like me personally, I would never go buy another conventional mortgage. I would never go down to another bank ever again. Why? Like the house that I bought here, Wells Fargo, 3.25% conventional loan. It has been amortized over 12 years already. And for anybody that doesn't know what amortization means, it means that I owe the bank $400,000 today. And over the course of 30 years, those payments pay down to zero, right? So that's an amortized loan versus Bo, you guys do hard money loans, which means you guys do interest only loans. So if I owe $400,000 today and I make 360 payments to you, how much do I owe at the end of that 30 years? I still owe that $400,000. So you can go and pay off a home utilizing your renter's payment. And in 30 years, so this is what's cool. So I have a partner named he's 25. His name is Cody Barton. Cody in January of 2019, so a year and 2 months ago, calls me up. He saw me on Steve Trang's show and he says, I know how to generate leads, but I can't close a wet paper sack to save my life. Okay. I need help. If I don't get a deal in the next 30 days, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. Okay. A year and 2 months later, the kid is driving a Maserati and has now probably close to $5 million in assets that will be paid off by the time he's 48, 49. So everybody's struggling to try and be, at 65, I hope I have $1 million. At 65, I hope I have a couple $1 million to retire. This dude, in the matter of a year, by utilizing seller finance and creative finance with me, has been able to put $5 million in his retirement fund and make a tremendous amount of money where other people were struggling in wholesale. So guys, that's another thing. Sorry, I get like passionate about this, but if you have not read the book Rocket Fuel, holy shit, what are you doing with your life? Go read the book Rocket Fuel. It will change your life. Here's what Rocket Fuel will tell you. It will tell you that Jamil and I would be absolutely horrible business partners together. Now, can we own businesses together? Yes, we can, but we definitely need to have an integrator to do the things that we absolutely will never do. So what I did is in my 20s, I partnered with all these people I loved, and they were my friends, and those relationships crash and burn, and I never knew what was going on. I felt like I just sucked at business. Guys, I didn't suck at business. I just didn't realize what my strengths were, and that's what Rocket Fuel will do. It will make you take a test, and you'll find out which type of person you are to be able to go and partner with the right people and find the missing links in your business. Anyway, I get all amped because I'm like, I want people to understand how easy this really is. And that's what's so cool about like Jamil is doing that show yesterday. Okay, this is what's funny. Okay, I look at him doing this live because it pops up, and anything that Jamil does, I have like a notification. So I see this live he's doing, and I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? Setting up a brand new, and then I realized what he was doing. He was trying to start from zero to take the horse to the water, and then not only take the horse to the water, but take the water and put it in the horse's mouth. Like he's teaching people from a very, very basic rudimentary level on how to set up a campaign, how to click this button, click that button, and click this button. And within 1 day from starting from zero, by the end of 24 hours, I don't know what you guys made on that assignment, Jamil. I imagine it was probably $12,000 to $15,000 on that assignment.
I don't know what Batch made, but we made $5,000.
Well, the thing is, okay, so you guys made $5,000, and Batch did part of the deal. So Batch probably made $10,000 because it sounds like it was through their system or whatever, and they got the chunk of it or whatever. I don't know. But I can tell you that text campaign was from a freaking free trial. So I get a lot of questions in my DMs. I'd say the number one question I get in my DMs are, how do I get into wholesale? The number two question is, what are the things I need to do and spend money on? And I'm like, there's so many free trials for you that you can literally get started for this for like 2 weeks with no money out of pocket, like maybe $3 or $4, right? So it's amazingly simple. It's just you need to be learning from the right people and need to be around the people that actually truly care and provide value at a level that is understandable, right?
Yeah. And I want to add to that, Pace, because I've been doing real estate investing since 2002. I've been around the block a while, and I've been interested in seller finance subject to since the beginning, right? I'd always heard of it. I'd known that it's a strategy. And every time I'd gone to try to learn it, it was like calculus. The person that was explaining it, the person that I was paying to teach it, it sounded like was more confused than I was. Every single time. And it wasn't until I saw Pace actually break down, okay, Jamil, let me show you how simple this is. A, B, C, D. That's it. Okay, wait, what? This can't be right, because I actually watched this other guy try to explain it to me for 6.5 hours, and you've missed all of this. He's like, I haven't. Here's why that's wrong. And it's like, it's literally as simple as he puts it. If you guys are really interested in understanding creative finance, there is not another person on the planet that I think can explain it in a simpler way than Pace. It's fantastic. Get into that creative finance.
Thank you. Do you guys mind if I jump into at least the top exit strategies for subject to and seller finance so people can understand what that's all about? Okay, so I want to give you guys basically two things. I want to tell you why we do subject to and subject to and seller finance. Let's talk about the difference between those two. Subject to just means I'm buying a house and somebody else's debt stays on the property. I own the house. I take title. I close escrow. I'm the legal owner. I get all the benefits of being the owner. The difference is the debt that was in place, I just take it over. That's subject to. Seller finance means I'm buying the house from a seller who has the house paid off, and I'm just simply structuring a deal with that seller. And the way I explain it is this. Ty, and you've heard me say this, I probably shouldn't ask this question. Yeah. Bo, let me ask you this question. Maybe you'll understand what I'm doing here and you'll be too smart for it. But Bo, would you ever pay $1 million today for a $100,000 house?
If I bought it on terms.
You're too damn smart for the question. That's okay. That's the problem with you, Bo. You're too damn smart.
I know.
Let me ask you another question. If I told you I would pay you $100,000 to jump out of an airplane with no parachute, would you do it?
No, because I'm afraid of heights. I almost died mountain climbing one time.
Okay, but what if I told you that the airplane was already grounded and sitting on the tarmac? Would you then do it for $100,000 with no parachute?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same thing with buying a house. Guys, I would literally buy a house for $1 million that's only worth $100,000, because then I would just structure something with the seller. And I'd say, yeah, I'd be fine with that if I paid you $500 a month for the next 20,000 years, I would be happy to do that because I can cash flow at $1,200 a month. The number one reason why we buy properties with creative financing is not equity. The number one reason you buy houses in wholesale is because of equity. Okay, so when you don't have equity or a seller wants too much money, what do? You don't throw that lead away. You find out, can I cash flow? So I'm going to go through real quick. What are the top ways I can exit on a subject to deal? Okay. So hopefully everybody got this.
We'll send it out. We'll post it in the groups that this is streaming so everybody can get into your groups too and get a hold of you.
Perfect. So the number one easiest way for me to make money in subject to, do you know what it is? No money out of pocket. I don't even have to close on the deal. The number one way to do it.
Assignment.
Wholesale. Yep, there you go. Half of the deals that I own right now, are wholesalers that were throwing their leads away. And I just say, wholesale your shit to me because I will buy it and I will pay you an assignment because I understand the power of the mortgage. So if you guys listened to my last conversation with the seller on Sunday, the seller says, I don't get why you're doing this for us. This is so crazy. And I said, give me a guess. Why are you doing that? You go, I don't know. There's got to be a reason why you're paying full retail for this house. Nobody else could. And I said, I'm not buying your house. And they go, okay, so you care about the land? I go, no, I'm buying your debt. I care about your debt. You have a 3% interest rate. I can't go get that on my own. There is so much value there that I can bring a renter in. That renter pays that down and I can cash flow tomorrow. And I can, that's the beautiful thing about creative financing is you can be so utterly honest with a seller. Whereas in wholesale, it's like you're constantly fighting other wholesalers. And subject to and creative financing, as of right now, I'm basically like, I'm Michael Jordan standing on an empty court. I have nobody to play against.
Yep.
I'm just making buckets all day long because you guys still need, everybody watching this needs to learn. I need people to play against, guys. I'm telling you, it's massive. Number two, here's the number two best exit strategy on a deal, and it requires no money out of your pocket. A wrap. Okay, so what is a wrap? Very, very simple. I buy a house from somebody. The mortgage stays in their name. I take title. I'm now the owner of that property. I've bought that house subject to. Okay. So I take a set of terms. Let me see. You guys can read this. So I take a set of terms, $1,000. Let's say I buy the house for $100,000. My mortgage payment's $1,000, and I'm at 3.5% interest, and I give them $5,000 down. So when you guys, the word terms even confuses people, right? So when I say, oh yeah, I'll buy terms, people go, what does terms mean? Well, this is what terms are. Right here, terms are $100,000 purchase price, $1,000 monthly payment, 3.5% interest rate at $5,000 out of pocket. That could be my cost of closing plus some cash to the seller. All I do is I go find another buyer that says, man, my credit is shot. I lost my job. My wife and I got in a divorce, whatever, but I have $20,000 and I want to buy a house, but every bank tells me I can't get qualified. I go, in the back of my mind, I'm like, damn, dude, I got a loan right here. I have control over somebody else's loan right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my own terms on top of that. Sorry, this screen's all backwards. I'm going to wrap that with my own additional terms, and I'm going to go $1,500 a month. $125,000 purchase price, $1,500 a month at 6.5% interest with $20,000 down. Okay, so I just create an additional loan. I'm the lender. I'm no longer the owner of the property. I'm just the lender. So I take that guy's money. So here's how I would do it. Bo, how much is your typical interest rate?
Well, it was 8, but now it's about 9.5. Okay,
so let's say it's 10. So you give me your money at 10. I go to Ty and I go, hey, Ty, over there in California, how much are you guys paying in interest rate? And Ty goes, man, we're paying 14. I go, dude, I'll give you a loan at 13%.
Yep.
So what I'm doing is I'm taking Bo's money and I'm wrapping it with 3 additional points or interest percentages, and I sell it to Ty, and I'm making 3%, and that's called a wrap. I've just wrapped Bo's money with my own terms. I took somebody else's loan, Bo's loan to me, and I wrapped it to Ty and I'm making a spread. That's a wrap. Okay. What's dope about that is that I gave the seller how much money? I gave the seller $5,000 and the buyer on my side gave me $20,000. So where does the other $15,000 go?
In Pace's pocket?
Goes into sushi. I got to go buy sushi, guys. Like I got to buy sushi, toilet paper, all that shit. So I make $15,000 on somebody else's loan. And then every single month I make $500 cash flow for the next 30 years. And I'm not even the owner of the property. Does everybody understand a wrap now? That's just basic shit.
Yeah.
There's another way to explain this. I try and explain everything in terms of a car. So let's say Bo has a car that's a $5,000 car, and I know Ty needs a car and he has $10,000. I'm just wholesaling it to him. But what Bo does is Bo goes, hey man, you know what? I'd be willing to just take $200 monthly payments on this $5,000. I know you don't have the $5,000. I just really need the $5,000 on paper. I'm good with you just making payments. Great. So I structure a deal with Bo for $5,000, $200 a month for the next X amount of years. I then go to Ty. I go, Ty, I can get you qualified for a car loan with $300 monthly payments for $7,500, and you can start right now. And here's the keys to that car right now.
Yep.
Ty covers my cost to get into the deal, and I get the monthly spread between the two. That's a wrap. Easy. So when people are like, oh, I need money to get into this game, guys, no, you don't. I make more money on creative financing deals than sometimes I do on wholesale deals, and there's no damn equity.
Jordan is asking how you're saying, Pace, that you can get into this with no money down, but you said you had to come out with some money. Jordan, the money that Pace is putting down is coming from his end buyer, so the money is flowing through. It's never coming from Pace. It's always coming from an additional the party that Pace is selling to. Does that make sense?
So the first deal I ever bought, so Jamil knew I was trying to get into this game years ago. Okay, guys. So Jamil knew I was getting to the game, and Jamil sees all sorts of deals all the time. And he sees me in a local meetup. It was actually Steve Trang's meetup. And he comes up to me and he says, hey, I've got some of this drug that you want. I got this subject to deal that you've been talking about. And I know you're trying to learn it. And I go, oh my gosh. So in that deal, it cost me $21,000 to close on that deal, but I was so stupid. What I could have done is during my escrow, I could have found my buyer, which I ended up getting a buyer that brought $29,000 to the deal. I could have just had that buyer come in and close escrow, and I would have stayed in there. So what happens is the title company creates a note in there for me that explains my terms and makes it so I get a payment every single month. The title company does all that. Okay. So it's simple. People go, oh my gosh, I don't know the paperwork. You don't need to. That's what title companies are for. Okay. Stop thinking about the paperwork. So I buy this deal from Jamil, and after I did, I still own the house, by the way. I sold it on a wrap. I made $6,000 up front, and I get a check every month for $600. What I could have and should have done is I should have gone to Jamil and said, hey, do you mind extending escrow out an extra 30 days and I'll pay you guys an extra $1,000? What I could have done during that escrow period is I could have found my buyer, had that buyer bring the $29,000 to escrow, cover my cost. And that, since I learned that lesson, I've never done a wrap where I closed on it in my own money. I always utilize somebody else's money to cover my cost to get into the deal. So it'd be like me going to Ty and saying, hey, Ty, or let's say I go to Bo and I go, Bo, you have a truck you want to sell me for $5,000. You want $500 down and $200 a month. So I go to Ty and I go, hey, Ty, I've got this truck for $7,500, but you got to pay me $1,000 down and $300 a month. Ty gives me $1,000. I give $500 to Bo. Bo hands the keys to me and I hand the keys to Ty. Wrap is all done. That's a wrap, folks. Easy.
No money out of your pocket. I love it.
No money out of my pocket. Just money in my pocket. Sushi money, baby. Sushi money. Okay. So, I'd say, honestly, the wrap is probably one of the most challenging things to understand, because people think a subject to is a wrap and they don't know what a wrap is. And it's like super confusing. The way everybody else explains this is not that simple. A wrap is not an acquisition strategy. A wrap is a disposition strategy. It's how I sell the property and monetize. So when I'm acquiring the property, I'm acquiring the property either on subject to or seller finance. It's basically the same thing. It's just one has debt on it and the other one doesn't. Okay. Now, the third way to do this is I can do the SIR model. That's another exit strategy, right? So I buy that property and I turn around and rent it out, but I don't have to go get a hard money loan. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I already have most of our SIR models are 3.5% interest rates that we took over from a seller or less, okay? Another one. If you're a fix and flipper, wouldn't it be so much better if you just got a loan in place? You didn't have to put 20% down with a hard money lender and pay 10, 12, 13% plus points up front, right? Loan docs and all that kind of crap. With a subtail, all you have to do is close escrow on that bad boy and you have a mortgage already in place. It's money, all right? So number 5, a lease option. Okay, so a lease option, why I love lease option. It's probably 85% of my exit strategy is lease option. I love lease option because I still retain ownership of the property, but I give a buyer 5 years to execute their right to buy that property from me. So I set a price. So let's say I bought the house for 100 grand. I sell it to them for 125. I have 2 agreements. I have a lease agreement and an option agreement. The option says you have 5 years to buy it from me, and the lease just is like a regular rental, right? So amazing. What's cool about lease options is I can get upfront money. Most of my lease optionees, people that come to us, they give us about $7,500 to $11,000 upfront, and that covers our cost to get into those deals for the most part. So a lot of our lease option deals, I own with no money out of my pocket, okay? So number 6 and 7, I would not suggest getting into right now. Airbnb is another one, and then you've got group homes. So I do own group homes, behavioral health, assisted living, those kind of things. And so a lot of people trying to get into that assisted living game are like, well, that's a really expensive business to get into because you got to buy a house. No, all 4 of the houses that I own, or I just sold 2 of them. The houses that I owned, I bought them all subject to, every single one of them. I never had to go out and get a loan on any single house. And we had over 60 operating beds in our assisted living business without ever having to get a mortgage in our name. Guys,
hey,
crazy.
You've been asked about 1,000 times in the comments, how are you handling the due on sale clause? I know you've got an answer for that, but it's been asked so many times. And I feel like if we end this and you don't about how you're doing the due on sale clause, they might riot.
Okay, so a lot of times people will talk about the due on sale clause being solved by utilizing a land trust. Now in Arizona, so what is a land trust? A land trust is essentially just a tool. It's a document that basically you utilize it, you buy the property through it, and you name the beneficiary as your LLC. So your LLC technically is the beneficiary of the house, but on record it shows up as a land trust. Why is that a benefit? Because you can name the land trust whatever you want. So a lot of times people name the land trust such and such, like after the seller's name, land trust, so that the bank doesn't think that it ever actually transferred ownership. In my opinion, I think that's defrauding the bank. So I don't do that, but you will hear that a lot, okay? Yeah, guys, land contract, that's a whole nother conversation. We'll go into that. Go into the Facebook group and that's another thing. Here's how I solve the due on sale clause. The way that we handle the due on sale clause is we have a company called Equity Assurance, and we buy due on sale clause assurance, okay? What Equity Assurance does is it's a company that if you ever get the due on sale clause called on you, which I haven't had one in like 6 months. I just got one on Monday. It's a small local bank. They called us up. Hey, saw there's a transfer of ownership. We're going to foreclose on the property. I said, no problem. Thank you so much. And so what happens is Equity Assurance has their attorney call that bank and tell them, I'm sorry, you can't foreclose on this property because you have to have written approval from HUD to foreclose on a performing mortgage. They are not behind on the mortgage, therefore you legally and lawfully cannot foreclose on them. So guys, the due on sale clause cannot be pushed forward on a performing loan. Okay. Strong. And if you have an attorney that can push on that, that's what Equity Assurance is for. Equity Assurance is like, if I buy a house for 200 grand, the cost for Equity Assurance to protect me on due on sale clause is like $2,500. Okay. Now, the other thing that they do is
total pace. Is that for the total total cost out of pocket for the entire length you own the property?
Total deal.
It's crazy.
Insane. So then the second thing that they do is they have a tremendous amount of cash that they will refinance your mortgage out if the bank finds some loophole. And in their years in business, they've only had one time that the due on sale clause actually got pushed forward. Usually 99.9% of the time, their attorney will fight that off and it'll go away, okay? But if it does happen, they have cash reserves. They wipe out your underlying mortgage with the exact same terms in place. And then now who do you make the payments to? You now make the payments to Equity Assurance, and they make interest on their money. Pretty amazing business model, actually. So hopefully that answers that question very specifically. The name of that company is Equity Assurance. Tell them I sent you. They'll give you like $200 off or something like that.
I used to ask
I have their contact information in my Facebook group.
Aisha asked, what's the largest profit deal? I'll tell you mine. Mine was 4 acres of land. We wholesaled that for a $276,000 profit.
Holy shit. Oh, you guys want to see my largest deal in the last like 6 months?
It's not the size of the deal, it's how many deals you do.
That's what sometimes I tell myself, is not the size of the deal. So December, I got a check for, where's that? $78,000. That's the biggest wholesale deal we've done in the last 6 months. This check, obviously I had them wire it, but what I do is like anytime I get a check over 50 grand, I have them print it and then I put it in my studio here so I can just see it. And then they cancel the check and they wire the money. So obviously whatever, but I've done a couple deals over 100 grand. I've never done anything that big. It
was a lot of risk. It was a total cowboy move, but anyways.
Well, sometimes that shit pays off, bro, because you're a cowboy.
So sushi's on you then, right?
Yeah. A lot of times Jamil does buy the sushi, dude. A lot of times, I'm telling you.
When we can all meet and actually hang out in real life, I'll feed you sushi.
On a subject to deal, I would say the largest deal I've ever done, I'm in the process of it, and it's kind of an unfair answer, so I'll answer this with 2 different answers. The biggest deal I've ever done is a group home. So I've got a group home that I bought. It's 7 units. We're turning all those units into a group home, and we will bring in $650 per bed. My net every single month after my debt service, after everything, I'll make about $6,300 a month in net income on that. And then outside of group homes, because that's kind of a ninja move, that's like once you get going, my biggest cash flowing deal right now is $1,400 a month net. So after all expenses, allocation of repairs and all that kind of stuff, that deal is a 2.9% VA loan that has horse property on it. So the lease optionee paid like an extra $500 a month over regular rents because they wanted the horse property, and they were like fighting. Like we were going to end up potentially selling that on the market because we had so much equity in the deal that we had somebody come along to us and like, what is it going to take for me to rent this property? I want to have a house that I can board my horses instead of boarding my horses somewhere else. So that one is one of my biggest cash flowers. And the average cash flow deal that we have, I'd say our average is $425 net after allocation of repairs and vacancy and all that stuff. $425 a month net.
Is there any type of loan, like if you're looking at buying subject to, that you stay away from? Like, I'm not going to buy it because for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Hard money loans. If Bo's name on it, I don't want to buy it subject to. So hard money loans, reverse mortgages. You want to stay away from reverse mortgages. I spent about
FHA.
What's that?
FHA.
No, I do FHA.
FHA
is great. Here's the problem with FHA. So FHA is that you have to self-perform your paperwork. So instead of hiring a title company to do all the paperwork, the deed transfer, maybe catching up the arrears and all that kind of stuff, all that paperwork, the disclosures, all that stuff, we will then self-perform it, close the transaction. So deed's been transferred, everything's fine. And then I go back to the title company and I have them insure that transaction. So the thing with FHA and the reason why so many people believe it can't be done is because title companies don't want to do it. And the reason they don't want to do it is because if they get caught doing it, FHA will come in, slap them on the wrist one time, and then the second time they get caught doing FHA subject to, FHA will no longer let that title company ever do any type of FHA, whether it's like a traditional purchase or a subject to. So they just say, nope, we can't do it. And then it's created this world that people believe that FHA can't be done.
Is there ever a reason that you would acquire a property with a lease option as opposed to subject to, like for any purpose? Is there a reason to acquire that way?
Not when you know what I know. So a lot of people that are acquiring with lease options, I feel like they're allowing the seller to retain control of that property. When you know what I know and you can convince the seller just to sell it to you on subject to where you're the actual owner of the property, I would never acquire a house on a lease option. I just feel like there's just way more opportunities and way more upside on just buying it subject to than a lease option. Then also, here's the thing with a lease option. It's called a lease option for a reason. So if I buy it on a lease option, so let's say, you're asking on an acquisition side, if I add this to my acquisition strategy, if I buy a house on a lease option, you know what I can't do with it? Like half of the models here I can't do. I definitely can't wrap that because I'm not the owner, right? What a lease option means is that instead of me controlling the debt and I'm the owner of the property, you essentially are just letting me live in the property. And then I have to go and secure funding within 5 years.
Can I have your help?
I don't want to secure funding. That's the whole purpose of subject to and seller finance is I don't have to secure funding. So with a lease option, the person giving me the lease option is requiring me to go out and get funding secured, utilizing my own credit to buy that property from them at some point. Why would I do that when I can just take over the mortgage, right?
Smart.
Right. So there's a lot of people who acquire lease options. I don't know why they're doing that because basically what you're doing is you're buying a house with a 5-year balloon. And in 5 years, what a balloon is for people that don't know is it's something that balloons are for clowns. Don't buy things with balloons and don't get yourself into trouble because what happens if the economy shifts and you have a balloon due or a balloon essentially is a term that pops at the end of 5 years. So you only have 5 years on that deal. And at the end of 5 years, you have to go secure your own funding and wipe out that lender. So balloons are for clowns, not for real estate investors. That's my opinion. So anyway.
Love it. So, dude, I love everything you guys shared, everything you shared on creative financing. Jamil, love with all the wholesale, with obviously just from A to Z, spoon feeding, taking the horse to water, putting the water in the horse's mouth. I love all of everything you guys shared tonight. You guys were incredibly generous with your time. I know we went over quite a bit, but I really appreciate your generosity. I want to just close on one last thought. Something you said, you said it very briefly, Pace, and I know what a big deal it is for both you, Jamil, for you, Pace. You talked about emotional income, or I think you said either emotional equity or emotional income. I think that would be such a great parting thought for both of you to share with this group, because again, we talked about Squad Up, we talked about community, especially now more than ever in this changing environment, how we need to stick together. Talk about the emotional income, talk about the emotional equity, that piece, how that resonates for both of you.
Jamil?
Well, Pace can speak a lot on this. For me, I absolutely adore the messages I get from people when they tell me, I've been watching your videos, I took action on what you said, it actually worked, I have a deal under contract and I just signed it today and I'm going to change my life because I made $10,000. And I think back to a day in my life when if somebody would have shown me how to make $100, it could have changed my whole situation, right? And looking back at the fact that there was no one there to help me when I was trying to figure this all out, and being able to be that person for someone, to be able to maybe change the trajectory of their life, or maybe just help them get out of a bad situation. or maybe help them propose to their wife. Their soon-to-be wife. I don't know. But whatever that is, whatever positive impact that I can make in someone's life means something to me. I've got enough money now, right? I absolutely, not that I don't want to make more. I love it, right? It's fun to buy stuff and do cool stuff, but it's not all about the cash. It really is about being able to help people and see an impact that you're making on the planet, on communities, on people's lives. And for me, that's just huge.
I love it. Thank you.
So the thing about Jamil is he's incredibly humble. The first person, so any success I owe it to three things. I owe it to people like Jamil, specifically Jamil. I owe it to my ability to follow through with advice and the hand holding or the horse to water that, Jamil essentially did the same thing for me. Years ago, I reached out to Jamil on Instagram. We weren't friends. Now we're best friends because I realized the value he gave to me. And in return, I hope I've given half as much value as he's given to me.
Oh, you always do, bro. You're the best.
The third thing that's propelled me forward is also watching that whole transition happen of watching what Jamil does when he touches somebody, the Midas touch, I call it. So he gives the Midas touch. And then if that person takes that gold that Midas gave him and then touches somebody else with it, it's this amazing world. And that's why our Arizona squad is so golden and amazing, is because we all have reciprocity. We all give back what we were given. So Jamil was truly the first person that ever I reached out to. Gave me his time, sat down, gave me some of the best advice, and not just advice, actionable advice, because that's what everybody in here is looking for. They're looking for no bullshit. I need to take care of my family today, not in 6 months or not after I do all these things that don't actually make sense, but actionable items from somebody that is active in the business. Okay, so now any success that I've had, think about it. Nationwide, I would say that I'm probably top 3 recognized for creative structuring and stuff like that. Okay.
Yep.
Where did that come from? That didn't come from me just one day saying, oh, I know all this stuff. It came from Jamil putting me on. It came from Steve Trang putting me on. It came from these kind of friends that truly saw, wow, this guy works hard. I'm going to give him a chance. And then in return, giving me an opportunity to feed back into them. It is the squad culture. It is the fact that Jamil truly, that deal that they got, that's a deal that my team probably was fighting for. And I couldn't be any happier for their team. Isn't it funny? Am I pointing to Jamil right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so isn't it funny that Jamil has a hat with a horse on it right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I just noticed that. It's a
Not
horse.
only does Jamil have a huge cock, just kidding. That's a joke. But the horse on his hat truly is a symbol of the fact that he takes a horse to water and he feeds that horse directly. So if that horse isn't drinking, Jamil's like, what's going on? How do I make this actually work for you? What have I not? I brought you to the water. There's something missing. And he goes that extra step and he feeds the water to that horse, right? So Jamil did that for me. There was a lot of times in my first and my second year in business that Jamil's like, he calls me, he goes, hey man, what are you doing? You're missing this or you're missing that, or, hey, you got to stay away from that guy. That guy's going to take advantage of you. Truly, Jamil probably saved me $1 million. If I would have listened to him at the appropriate time, Jamil probably would have saved me an additional $1 million by telling me to get away from a really, really bad relationship that I was in with one of my clients. He knew the client. He vetted the client years before, and he told me to stay away from him. But there's 1,000 pieces of advice that I've gotten. So now what happens is when I can take that Midas touch and I can do the same thing Jamil did for me, and I do it for somebody else, there's no greater gift. Now we all have this conversation about what is our why. We all 4 of us right here have the same why. It's our family, right? It's our legacy. That's everybody here has the same why. So let's put that to the side and just assume we all have the same why. Now, above and beyond that, if you are truly living your purpose and you are living in the vein of of why you were put here, you will impact people at a very high level. So what happens is when you watch these people get impacted by what we say and the things that we teach them, and they actually go out and make money, what it tells us is we are in the exact position that the universe, God, or whoever wants us to be in. And then there's no greater feeling than standing there watching your fellow man accelerate and grow their business and taking care of their why and their family. And so that emotional income fills my emotional bank, and it only fuels our fire to go do more. It's an addiction. It's like the best type of addiction. So anyway, I'm sorry I'm a long-winded talker. I love telling stories, but Jamil is very humble. He touched my life in the same way that I'm hopefully being allowed to touch other people's lives by traveling the country with Midas himself.
I love you, bro.
That's awesome. I love Ty and I were talking the other day. We're like, what's the thing in Arizona? Because why are these, like, all the big wholesalers are in Phoenix? We couldn't figure out something there, right? I told Ty it's like the Silicon Valley of wholesalers in Phoenix, Arizona. You guys are amazing.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you coming on. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am, because I know just what I learned from you guys tonight, that it will take me to the next level. And I've closed a lot of deals in my life. And
can you see this photo?
Guru.
That's an energy drink that one of our real estate friends just created here in Arizona. Because there's so many gurus here in Arizona, they were like, we're going to create a guru energy drink. It's actually like on shelves in Arizona, like grocery stores. There are truly that many real estate investors here. But to answer that question, it goes back to what Ty talked about. If you are missing that squad or that chain, right, of people, that the fire or the campfire effect of being warmed around other people, it's up to you to go create it, okay? And I can tell you that in our squad of probably 25 really close friends here in Arizona, there's about 5 people in that group that if you remove them, the social glue falls apart. I can tell you Jamil's one of those top people. You just know that. And so if you're somebody like Jamil and you have those gifts of being able to connect people, and you ever, like Ty or Bo, when you guys were young, did you ever have a group of friends of like 5-6 guys, and then like when one ringleader wasn't there, it just wasn't the same, and like you guys just didn't hang out?
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
Jamil is that ringleader in Arizona, right? So if you are that guy in your area, so here's the thing about ringleaders: they have the ability to go really, really fast on their own, or they have the ability to go really, really far with a group around them. And so it takes a humble one of those guys to stop, slow down, connect the people around him. And I have to thank people like Jamil, people like Steve Trang, who could have gone and been more successful faster on their own in a lot of ways, because they have a superpower. And that superpower is what I just talked about, the connectivity. But they then turn around and empower other people. So Ty, just knowing you and like meeting you, you are a guy that has that ability, that superpower to connect people, warm them, and actually have that true inspiring like charisma. You got to be the Jamil of your area, right?
Yep. 100%, guys. You guys, thank you so much. Your Midas touch to Bo and I, as well as to the rest of the group. You guys were so generous with your time and sharing. We really appreciate it. We can't wait for when we actually get to do live events. Anything that we can do to support you. I know for sure I'm getting on a plane coming to Arizona and start hanging out with you guys.
Bro, we're going to
come to your meetups with Steve.
When the world turns back on, Ty, I want you to be the first person back out. Let's go on some ride-alongs and go hang out.
Absolutely. And then, of course, just looking to learn more. For everybody on here, please get in the Wholesale Hotline Facebook group. Please get into the Pace's Creative Financing with Pace Morby. This has been a great interview, guys. Thank you so much. You're very generous with your time. Thank you.
Guys, anything you need from us, we're here. We appreciate you guys for having us on here and putting us on. So thank you so much for you guys.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.